I'm excited to announce the issuance of the Torsion tools, GitHub, the R20 repository. Um, what we're going to be doing is putting some information out there that's a Revit 2020 add-in Visual Studio template file. It's not necessarily to start a new project from ground up, but it has some information already put into it. There's been some tools and some commands that I have shown um, either on LinkedIn or on YouTube before. And so I'm going to try to provide some of that information, kind of base file stuff for folks to be able to use. So it's all online. You can obviously download the repository. You can connect to it. You can also do source control um, and tie into it if you'd like from Visual Studio. Um, but that's kind of where we're going to start with stuff. So just to maybe start to walk through a little bit about how it looks in Visual Studio. If you right click there on the project, you can see the application information, um, target framework, etc. You can do some of the assembly information. You can change that to be what you like it to be if you download the information. Some of the file versioning that I like to use, just as an example. Um, Next thing is some of the build events. So this is kind of where when you compile and build the project, it's going to place the information in the appropriate file locations to work for Revit 2020. So it should just kind of work out of the box. Make sure you have your platform set to x64. That way it'll work with the correct version of the .NET, and then you can set it to debug if you'd like as well. The next thing you probably want to check out is the .add-in file. So this is where the information is stored in terms of your actual project name. What do you want it to look like inside of Revit? Where the file directory is going to be going. There's a couple of GUIDs that you want to make sure you change in there. That they need to be specific for your project, and then some company information, email address, website. Um, it's really just describing your add-in and the information that goes along with it. You'll see here kind of in the code, I've tried to be pretty explicit in comments, just so you can follow along on what I'm trying to do, what the different pieces are trying to tell you. Also, some of the forms that have been built along with it that act and do different pieces. I do use WIM forms. I know some people may gripe about that, but it's what I know, and it's easy and it's quick. And there's also some utility helper functions that I've added. I haven't really commented on those too much because we haven't really gotten to using them. And then the ribbon itself, adding the push button, the images, etc. And then the app. So the primary app file is you're going to have your on startup, on close down, and all your kind of other application events there. So that hasn't really been built out too much yet because there's not a lot of functionality. But we jump over here into Revit. I'm just using the basic sample project. I have added a couple of instance-based parameters to the title block. Just we'll see here in a second why we've done that. Um, I'm just gonna, if I lowercase this sheet name here real quick, we'll see one of the very first tools that we've included with this is going to be the capitalized sheet name ability. I think that's something that everybody should start with, just because we all use it. A sheet selector, right now this doesn't actually do anything. You'll see here, it's going to give us the sheet number and the name that we picked, but we'll start to build on that and use that a lot, because a lot of the work is done with sheets, and we saw the capitalize. This here is find and replace. I use this a lot. So you can use the sheet name or the sheet number, search for something, and then what you want to replace it with. Hit the preview button. It'll show you what the sheet name is now or number, and then what it would look like once you do that. So if you use that, I have used it many times to go through hundreds and hundreds of sheets in a project before to replace things. Like if somebody abbreviates elevation, then you can use this very quickly to actually spell that out. So that's a pretty neat tool. The next one here is the key plan visibility, which that's what it's intended for, is for key plans, but really what it does is it sets yes, no, instance-based parameters for title blocks. So in this case, I have the time date stamp, and I have a draft copy annotation that I have currently hidden. So you pick the title block, you pick the parameter, and then you can use a search feature basically to filter out how and what sheets you want it to be applied to. In this case, I use the title sheet, hit the draft copy, and then that parameter now becomes visible on the sheet. Obviously, you don't have to be on the sheet for it to work. In this case, I'll do the time date stamp, and I'll search for a sheet that I'm not currently on, um, which is the site plan over there, and I'll turn it off. And then we see when we jump to the different sheet here that that time date stamp is turned off. So that's kind of just a couple examples. Really, a key plan, turning off different sections if you have your sheets named, area A, area B, those kind of things. That's really where you can get it. And then the panel one up there is just, the typical hello world for people to kind of build in their own stuff. So again, Torsion Tools is the GitHub, R20 is the repository, all the information's there. It's really just to kind of help people out, show them what I've got, try to help support the community. If you have any questions, let me know.